Here we go. We're rolling. Anthony Sarigianopoulos, how you doing today?
Anthony. I think we've talked about this before.
Sarge.
Anthony you're in a lot of trouble. That was what my grandmother, if I heard my name, if I heard Anthony, I was running. I was definitely running to hide.
Well, you have an Italian family.
Italian and Greek.
So that's scary when they call your name.
Yeah. In Greek, Andoni, if Yaya said Andoni, Elado, that was it. I was, Thafaxilo, you're going to get the stick, things of that nature. That's Greek. So anytime I hear Anthony or my name in Greek, Andoni, that means
your heart sinks.
That means I'm in some kind of trouble. For sure, but Tony, that's usually. I'm sure at work there's a few other names for me that I'm not aware of, but I'm back for the third time.
Third time. You're one of the regulars.
Yeah. So has anyone else been here 3 times?
My sponsor, Jeremy Hurt, he's been here a few times. I think 4 times.
Okay.
Sip's been here 3 times.
Yeah.
He was actually supposed to do it again, but didn't. And this is your 3rd time. So
okay, so I'm tied for the lead right now.
You're tied.
I'm tied for the lead. So this is like I guess we call this 3rd time's a charm, right? the first time I was the first person, I think.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah,
the first person to experience a live interview.
Yeah,
and I didn't have the kinks quite worked out. And then the second time, Cipriano's mic wasn't really on him, so
because of
it kept cutting
proximity
in and out
to the microphone.
So this is take 2/3 of your story. And how
so
you
I
got
think
to where you're at.
This time we'll probably try and tell the story, and we won't have to worry about my mother sending you messages. I can't hear him, because I was going in and out, and you kept saying to me, someone keeps saying they can't hear you, and I'm like, it's got to be my mother. It couldn't be anybody else listening to me talk right now. But I mean, and I think I've said this to you before. I've seen, I don't know how many podcasts now that you've done. I know you're over 100 now.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thank
over
you.
100 episodes. And I wanted to be number 100, but it didn't work. The schedule didn't work out that way. No. But
I actually had them recorded when you were like, I want to be 100. I was like, I already have. Yeah, all of the ones recorded.
Oh, you already had it.
Yeah.
See, you wouldn't tell me.
Yeah.
You didn't want to hurt my feelings. But, and so when I listen, like I told you this before, when a lot of these shows from like way in the beginning with the lady who dealt with the domestic violence and how that ended, that was one of your first shows in the very beginning. To, my favorite is the gentleman who took on the state of Michigan or that institution.
Yeah, Richard Prangley.
They became good friends with the governor of Michigan, and he won. And that guy is just absolutely amazing to me. That's probably my favorite one of your podcast so far. Even when you interviewed the gentleman who was running for governor against the governor. Yeah.
Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie to you. I enjoyed the fact that people, there's today's world, people, you hit a sore spot and everybody thinks, your thinking and your thought process isn't like mine. So therefore we're going to cause chaos. And what was really messed up had nothing to do with your thought process. It's just you giving somebody a platform.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you wouldn't have given the opponent of the platform.
Right.
And that's what I thought was so bizarre and that I loved all at the same time.
Yeah, that one was really interesting because I knew that I would get a little backlash because he was at the whole January 6th thing. And people listening to this are like, oh, done listening to this episode.
Yeah.
They're checking out. Yeah. But the thing is like, I didn't want to talk to him about that. I just wanted to talk to him because he's running for governor. Right. And I wanted to talk to everybody who's running for governor. I reached out to everybody. Even Gretchen Whitmer. I reached out to her. No response.
Yeah.
But, that's expected.
Right.
But the thing is like people got mad at me for having him on because he was a part of that January 6th thing. And I'm like, I didn't even talk to him about any of that stuff, but that's what people were mad about. They were mad that I didn't grill him on. I'm like, this isn't a platform to debate somebody. This is me just giving somebody a platform to just talk about who they are and explain, what their goal is essentially.
Right.
And I got a lot of backlash. I was actually on a plane to Florida when all that started happening. And
I texted you.
Yeah, you texted me.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I was heading up in the air, and I was like, crap. So then the whole flight to Florida, I'm like thinking about like, what can I post to kind of like settle the fire a little bit?
Yeah.
And so I typed up a post the whole flight. I thought about what I wanted to write. And then when I landed, I posted it, and boy, did that create another shitstorm.
Yeah. It never ceases to amaze me anymore.
No.
But
one thing I realized is that even though it's negative press, it's good for you. People started paying attention to the podcast, and actually from that point on, my podcast started growing and got a lot more downloads and a few more subscribers and whatnot. It's
amazing.
Has the opposite effect.
Yeah, it's amazing the way haters can market you in a positive way.
Yeah,
people say to me all the time, like we have secret haters. Our podcast. They don't come out and say anything, but they tell other people that we know. And then those people feel like we need to know. So they reach out to us, and it's people that we know personally.
Yeah.
And I just say to myself, listen, they're like, are you going to unfriend them on Facebook now? And no, tell them to go on their Facebook page and talk about how much they can't stand our podcast.
Yeah. Because other people will listen.
Yeah. Because
what's this guy all about?
Yeah. If 10 people listen and 2 people like it, that's 2 more people that are going to listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
So it's just very strange the way that works, but it's true.
Yeah, and then you sent me a message. You're like, I'm glad you didn't apologize.
Yeah. Yeah, there's for what? I mean,
what is there to apologize? You shouldn't apologize for just talking to people.
No.
But I think eventually, maybe if you start going down that avenue, interviewing some confrontational people, then you'll get some of that.
Yeah. Like a Ted Nugent or somebody who really can really get a storm going. So I mean, just handle it the way look at the way Joe Rogan handles things like that. I mean, what a nightmare that was, and he didn't. He went right through it, and kind of I think everybody realizes now that Spotify wasn't going to get rid of Joe Rogan. I mean,
well, and he said that he gained like 2 million subscribers or followers or whatever after that. Like, it did the opposite of what they wanted it to do. Yeah. The cancel culture never works.
As a matter of fact, my brother found this out, and he said it on one of our podcasts. The individuals who were going to walk away from Spotify are back now. So they're slowly making their way back in.
Like Neil Young or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Exactly. I know. Now we're probably going to catch a storm for just saying whatever about Neil Young.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. But, yeah, whatever. He's in the Hall of Fame. I'm not. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I mean,
the thing is, like, even though we're not like big podcasters, seeing things like that makes me angry as a podcaster, because I'm like, okay, even if, like, I know we're not that big, but eventually, hopefully, that's the goal, right?
Sure.
To get that big.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not doing it to get big, but we're doing it to make a difference, and then obviously the outcome of that is to have a bigger platform.
Sure.
And when you see people attacking somebody like Joe Rogan, who's like at the forefront of podcasting, and they want to cancel him, and they don't want him on a platform, that's concerning, at least for me, because I'm like, if they're trying to do that to him, then what can they do to somebody who's smaller than him, like myself, somebody who barely has a platform?
Exactly. And that's something in this country that needs to stop.
I just posted something yesterday. It was kind of interesting. I was expecting a lot of backlash, and nothing happened. But I put up a post because I interviewed a guy who is running for president, and TikTok banned his account yesterday, and because he was talking about what he would do if he was president, what he would do for schools and protecting them, and his whole idea was putting veterans in front of these schools, and somebody reported him, and he got banned. And
reported him for saying that
he had 90,000 followers.
Because he thought that veterans in front of our school systems to protect our children was a good idea.
Yeah.
And they banned him.
They shut down his account.
Oh, man.
And if we don't think this is a problem, like, where is our society going?
I don't know. I mean, because I'll be the first to say it. I've said it a million times on social media. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I guess my brother, right? Joe, if you're listening, I guess we're done as a podcasting entity, because I totally agree with that. But obviously, our show's not about that.
No.
Two brothers, one mic. But nonetheless, I'm not one to just zip my lips when it comes to things that I agree with.
Yeah.
I totally think that's a great idea. I mean, what are we going to do here? This has been going on since I think 1997.
School shootings.
Yeah, Columbine, and I think there was one before Columbine actually. Columbine was the one everybody remembers the most.
Yeah.
And then you just kept going through, and you got the Sandy Hook, and in between them two, there was hundreds.
Yeah.
And then there's the latest thing that happened in Texas, and it's when I was in school, that was the last thing we thought about.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no concern whatsoever in the 60s, 70s, 80s, into the early 90s. And then all of a sudden, I mean...
Well, the thing is, when I was in school, I never had active school shooter drills.
Yeah.
We never did that. That wasn't a thing. It's not something that I ever even thought about. Obviously, we knew that Columbine happened and those, but it still wasn't that mainstream.
Yeah.
Now it's like my kids practice active shooter, courses or whatever. Like or drills. It's concerning.
Yeah.
I don't know. And what do we do?
I don't know. I mean, he's a comedian and all, but David Chappelle said it best. He said, and I'll paraphrase as we go off on a tangent here. He said, I don't know if anybody's ever really realized this, but while you're giving all these drills and telling everybody where to go and what to do, the shooter's in the room.
Aren't you training them?
You're actually training him to what exactly could happen in these schools.
Yeah.
And he goes into his thing, he pretends he's the shooter, and he has a notepad and a pencil, and he's like raising his hand. Now, where are you going again? And then writing it down. And he's trying to make it a joke, but he's serious at the same time.
Yeah.
You're actually training
Yeah.
the people that are going to be doing the shooting as to what the other kids are going to be doing and where they're going to be.
Yeah.
And I always do find that fascinating that nobody really picks up on that. So
yeah, but what do you do? I mean, because you want your kids to be aware of what to do in case there is something.
Yeah.
You don't want them running around like chickens with their head cut off, trying to figure out where to go.
I think one idea would be to take people who are more than willing, that are qualified, and more than willing to do their part, and more than happy to do their part in protecting our children. And I don't know, I'm hearing a lot of veterans are stepping forward and saying, we would love to protect our school systems, and we would love to be part of a program that, does just that, whether it's 3 or 4 or 5 of us in front of each one of these school systems. If we're mentally capable, physically capable, and willing, then that could be a route that we can take.
Yeah.
But every time someone says that, they say, no, let's just arm all the teachers. And if you talk to teachers, the teachers are like, so now I'm going to teach astronomy and math and spelling and reading with the gun strapped to my side.
Yeah.
I mean, how are the kids going to feel about that?
Yeah. What happens when you have a crazy teacher and wants to go off on the kid?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And that's scary because I'd like to think that would never happen, but
anything could happen at that point.
Yeah. It is, if you have children, which we do, in school right now, and in younger kids in school, it's definitely no one will say this. It's definitely a problem. They won't say it's not a problem.
Yeah.
I guess everybody has their different viewpoints on how to handle it, but
I guess everybody's just kind of hoping that, for one, their kid isn't the shooter and it doesn't happen at their school.
Yeah.
But
you think about that too. What about the parent who some of the parents are when you look at the history of the family, you're like, okay, the parent definitely was a problem here.
Yeah.
Without being in the home and seeing it, it's what it seems like.
Yeah.
But then what about the parent who did everything right, and the kid just lost his mind?
Yeah.
Right. And I say his, I didn't go to hers, because it's
usually
been
male.
male.
Yeah.
And for that matter, it's been white males. I mean, that's what it's been.
Yeah.
And for the most part. And
Uvalde was a Mexican kid, I believe, or a Guatemalan or something like that.
I think so. Yes. And he was a little bit older too. He wasn't.
Yeah, I think he was out of school.
He was,
because he went into an elementary school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
have you ever? Do you know who Tim Kennedy is?
I know the name Tim Kennedy, but it cannot possibly be the same person so I don't know the Tim Kennedy you're speaking of.
Tim Kennedy, he's a ex-UFC fighter, or maybe he is still a UFC fighter. He's an ex-Navy SEAL or Marine or something. Anyways, he has this company that specializes in making plans for schools. And one of his ideas was creating landscape around the building so that somebody can't just walk like climb through a window. So there's certain things you can do to a school that will keep people away from like windows. And by the time you notice somebody trying to get through a window, like everybody would have seen them. So they have time to react. Another thing he talks about is having a 1-point entrance. So somebody, can just walk through the front door. And then when you walk through the front door, you have a room that's a box that's isolated, and there's cameras everywhere, and you're analyzing that person. Who are you? Why are you here? Like all that stuff. And then somebody has to let them in the school. And then,
and I think the heat will come from that. It'll come from people saying fire code, only one way out of the school.
No. 1-point access. So you can still exit.
Okay.
So you still have your exit doors.
But nobody can come through the doors from the outside.
Right.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
The problem with that is people say, well, somebody can just prop open a door, which has happened before. But if you put an alarm on it, like you do like a fire alarm, and it goes off, then somebody's held accountable for that.
I don't know how, Uvalde, I don't know how he got into the school.
There was a door that was propped open.
And it was just propped open.
Yeah, and then a teacher went, tried to lock it real quick, and didn't happen. I don't know if that teacher got shot or not, but
yeah. And I guess there's a lot that goes into what happened there with the police officers as well.
Yeah,
there's a lot of questions.
What the heck
there.
Is that about? I haven't even done a deep dive on that one yet.
I haven't, and I come from an entire family of police officers, and even a lot of them are like, I don't understand what happened there.
Yeah,
that's dropping the ball big time.
Yeah.
So, and again, we weren't there. I was not there. I don't know exactly what happened. It does not look good, though.
No,
it does not look
not
good.
At all.
So,
they should not be police officers. They should be kicked off the force.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. Hasn't been in the news that I've seen, and I don't watch mainstream news at all. Really, I basically try to stay away from that. But it was kind of hard to stay away from that story when it first came on for the first month. So I don't know exactly what the situation is with those police officers and what happened there, but it doesn't look good.
No.
It doesn't look good. So, but so we went like a 180 on that, which it's almost like when we're at work together, we'll go in 10 different directions.
But that's what I love about working and talking is like every time that I'm talking to somebody and we're having a good conversation, I'm like, we should just throw mics on right now because this would be a really good episode.
Yeah.
And I think people would be interested in hearing what other people's thoughts and opinions are on certain subjects.
They would. And the people that agree with us, so, they'll say, we'll get thumbs up. And the people that don't agree with us, they'll say, cancel him.
Exactly.
Cancel him. Cancel that guy's show across from him, whatever it is. And there used to be a middle ground where people would just agree to disagree and try to find a common ground.
Yeah.
That went away some time ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're going to ever get that back or not.
Do you know what the first count of cancellation was? Like, who was the first person to get canceled?
Yeah, boy.
That we can remember in recent times.
So are you talking in the last 2 years, in the last 4 years?
I mean, it seems like cancel culture has just grown exponentially within the last, I'd say, 3, 4, maybe 5 years. I can't remember who the first person was that got canceled.
I don't. And I'll be honest with you, I try to tune it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that it started with, well, I don't know that it started with, but there was a big movement for all of history to be erased, statues to be removed, things of that nature, for various reasons. I can't think though what, it seems like every time somebody says something, or there's a lyric in a song, or there's a line in a movie, they want the movie removed, they want the song removed, they want the person removed.
Yeah.
And so, but it happens so often that I can't even possibly think of what the first one was.
What was your, I know we're going way off track, but what's your thoughts on Will Smith? Let's talk about cancellation. He slapped Chris Rock, and then all these platforms started removing Will Smith's movies off of them. Yeah. Like Netflix and Hulu or whatever other platforms.
Boy, the first thing I thought of when I seen it, first I got a text message, and it was from someone we work with. He doesn't, well, not anymore. Joe sends me a message, and he said, "Did you just see that?" And he sends me the clip of it. So then I start watching the clip over and over again, and in my head I'm like, "This is a setup."
Yeah, I thought it was fake
because I even forgot that they were on that night. So are they trying to draw in viewers with some kind of staged event? The more I watched it, the more, if you watch Chris Rock growing up, he wasn't acting. I mean, he was completely startled and turned off by the whole situation. And it just seemed like, to me, I'm a huge Will Smith fan. I do not condone what he did there. I thought that was absolutely absurd. But it seemed to me like he was laughing. Then all of a sudden, the switch flipped.
Yeah.
Because she was not happy. So it was like, did he look over and see her?
Yeah.
And then think, uh-oh, I have to do something here. And he went to a whole different, he didn't just say, I'm going to go have to talk to him afterward. He just said, I'm going to do this in front of millions of people.
Yeah.
And I think he even said, he just put on an apology video not that long ago. He said that basically Chris has not been ready yet to talk to him.
Yeah.
He'll let him know when, which I completely get. Chris, I think it's promoted him, which I'm happy it has.
Yeah, sold out all of his shows.
Yeah, I really am happy it has, because that could ruin somebody. I say Chris Rock is one of the most mentally strong people I've ever seen, because a lot of guys getting smacked in front of a million people, that can really mess up a guy's, whole persona right there. So, the way he handled it, most people couldn't have done that. If that would have been The Rock up there, that would have been a whole different ball game. And I don't think Will Smith would have went up there.
No, definitely not.
I mean, he'd have I don't know why he would do that, but I mean, so the way Chris is handling it, I'm happy that he's getting the positive vibe that he's getting from Will. I feel bad because, like he said in that video, it's he doesn't think he's ever going to really regain the admiration from the people and from Hollywood and so he may have jeopardized his career for good. And this was a guy who was, he was really an A-star actor and
one of the most iconic movie stars of all time.
He was on his way. He definitely was on his way.
Who do you think's the most iconic?
That's impossible. That's impossible, because now you're talking about, you're talking about the guy that calmed him down, Denzel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about an iconic actor, and it didn't take Denzel. Denzel didn't have to raise his voice. He just had to tell him, when the devil comes, you know what I mean? And so, there's one, and then you got Jack Nicholson, and then you got, you got all these guys. You got De Niro, you got Pacino. I even think, and people make fun of these two guys, but I think it's the genre that they picked to be a part of, and their voices that make them somewhat iconic. And I think that at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, Stallone will be iconic. I really do.
Yeah.
The guy has this, if you know his story from the beginning, Sylvester Stallone's story was a guy who came from nothing. They didn't even want him to be in the movie Rocky, which he wrote.
Yeah.
They wanted to buy that script from him for $200,000 and tell him to walk away. And he said, absolutely not. I'm acting in the movie. It's my movie. And so he almost sold that script. And he said he never would have forgave himself if he would have did that, because he would have got that money, but then that would have been the end for him. Yeah. And that just turned on a switch. So Stallone, and I think Schwarzenegger. I really do, because he said, my accent was supposed to be my demise, but everybody tries to imitate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be bought.
Yeah. If he does a Terminator movie Part 7, everybody will go see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, there's guys like that too. But, when you talk about, like I said, when you talk about the Jack Nicholsons and the De Niros and the Pacinos and the Denzels, Sidney Poitier, guys like that. Will Smith is, I think he was in that argument. You know,
the
what
category
I mean?
of people.
Yeah,
Are
I really
actors.
do. And I'm not even. I mean, Joe Pesci, I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
There's so many more. Tom Hanks
Oh yeah.
is fantastic. So there's so many. And we're talking about actors now, not actresses. And geez, I'm forgetting so many people. I mean, and then there's people that just because of their voices, like, you know, James Earl Jones, people like that. The list can go on and on. Samuel Jackson.
Oh my gosh.
Even when you think about John Travolta, like he was Vinnie Barbarino in Welcome Back, Kotter, and you know, he was just this Italian kid in this TV series in the 70s. Nobody thought anything of it, you know, and then he was disco dancing and everyone was like, okay, we found his niche. And then he did so many movies where he was iconic in them. So, and I know a lot of people hate this guy. He's one of my favorite actors, and he has proven time and time again that he's not going anywhere. Tom Cruise. I don't care what people say about Tom Cruise. I know
Top Gun. Did you see that?
Have you seen Top Gun Maverick?
Oh, that's so good.
I haven't seen one person yet. You know, every as soon as a movie comes out, you see the bad reviews. I haven't seen one. I haven't seen. They got to be out there somewhere.
They have to be.
I haven't seen one, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm an '80s kid. I was at the IMAX theater up here in Lansing with my two boys. So now you're sitting there, and they both seen the first Top Gun because Dad made them. So, but they liked it. All right, and now my youngest didn't care. You know, he was just kind of sitting there. But my older one, he was excited about it, and as soon as the thing starts playing, you know, they like the same beginning opening, you know, music from the first one, you just get goosebumps.
That was funny because my wife's daughter, youngest, the youngest of the oldest, said she went and seen it, and she was like, it was a good movie, but they had a lot of old music in it. Like, have you seen the first one?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think they did a good job of tying the first one in without getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, like people are like, well, that was a cheesy scene. Well, you have to have the cheesy scenes to satisfy Generation X.
Yeah.
But you want to pull Generation Z in. You want to keep the millennials there.
Yeah.
So when you have to figure out how to do that. And I thought they did a fantastic job. And the fact that he knew that he wanted to wait for technology to catch up so that they can actually put the cameras in the plane.
Whoa.
And every scene is actually them flying at whatever, 7Gs, 6Gs, 7, 8Gs. And I forget what it is, the most that they say you can actually go. But
the pilot that was a stunt artist for him is from Michigan.
Oh, okay.
And I tried getting him on the podcast. Actually, I should probably reach out again.
But, yeah. Heck yeah. I would do it maybe once every other month and just be nagging him back and forth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I do with some people. But
people don't realize that the difficulties of podcasting, because it takes so much work, especially at first, to get guests. I mean, now like guests just come to me unless there's somebody specific like that I want. Then I'll reach out. But for the most part, like people are like reaching out to me. But at first, when you first start out, it's like, man, you got to like figure out what kind of person you want to interview, what you want to talk about, and it's not easy.
It is
very difficult.
It's and we're you're a couple months ahead of me and my brother for our podcast. And when we finally came up with Two Brothers One Mic, that took a couple months of trying to figure out. We went from the average Joe to Two Brothers One Mic. My brother's name's Joe, and there was a reason behind that and everything. And finally we came up with Two Brothers One Mic, and that took a couple months. Then trying to figure out, are we going to, is it going to be audio? Is it going to be video? Starting to do all the research. How many podcasters fail? Why do they fail? What and really, believe it or not, one of the biggest reasons for failure, I think only 20% succeed in this out of hundreds of thousands of podcasters.
There's 4 million podcasts.
4 million now.
4 million.
That like almost went up another, I don't know how
million.
many since the last, yeah.
Within the last year.
Yeah, so.
This episode is brought to you by Red Bike Delivery. This delivery service operates only using battery-powered, eco-friendly transportation. Red Bike Delivery is there for all your delivery needs, whether it's dinner for the family, flowers for your partner, or new houseplants for your new collection. Red Bike Delivery will gladly deliver those and everything in between. So what are you waiting for? Check out Red Bike Delivery on Facebook or Instagram for more information. Red Bike Delivery, because there's only one Earth.
So, I mean, when you look at that, one of the biggest reasons is because people want to succeed immediately.
Yeah.
There's that, that feeling of that necessary feeling of, what do you call it? Gratification,
Instant
that immediate
gratification.
instant gratification. Boy, I'm losing my mind right now. But so with instant gratification, people want to be bigger, faster, stronger right now. They want to make all the money in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
They want the house of their dreams right now.
Yeah.
They want the car of their dreams right now. They want the job of their dreams right now. They want the degree right now. And if you ever notice, like even in college, now you can go to high school, and by the time you're graduating as a senior, if you go through the right programs, which my eldest is lucky enough to be able to do right now, as he's getting ready for this, you can come out of high school with two years of college under your belt already. So by the time you're 20, 21 years old, you have your college degree. And it saves mom and dad, money.
Yeah.
It saves the child, in terms of student loans and things like that.
Yeah.
But it also makes me wonder, I mean, is this getting worse and worse when it comes to how we need everything done faster?
Well, I just learned yesterday or the day before from TikTok that you can get your kid, like a 15-year-old kid, a credit card to build them credit.
And who's responsible though?
The parents are.
Yeah.
So like this guy was talking about how he owns a bunch of real estate properties, and one thing he did for his 15-year-old daughter was he got her a credit card that was off of his account. And so, but it helped build credit for her.
Mm-hmm.
So when she turned 18, she already had established credit. And I'm like that, I think that's good. But at the same time, I don't know if it is, like, what are we doing here?
It depends. I mean,
I guess
obviously there's a lot of factors there. It depends on who the parents are. Are they going to be paying attention to the situation? I mean, there's a credit limit on there.
Right.
$500, you know what I mean?
I wasn't even looking at it in that aspect, but it's like building credit is definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
But like, do you want a 15-year-old to worry about that?
Building credit, I don't know. Being responsible with their finances,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if there's good. There could be some good behind. Again, it depends on who the individual is.
I just feel like at this point in history, like we're pushing things forward so much that we're like you said, lessening the amount of time that it takes to get something done or go to college or whatever it is. Everything's so much quicker.
I think a big problem, what you're talking about, whatever this program may be, as far as 15-year-olds with credit cards, is the whole self-gratification thing again, wanting everything right now. I think every young person should start off with actual money in their hand. So when they're paying for something, as they're handing that money over to the cashier, they understand the meaning of
getting rid of it.
Get rid of it, yeah, and it's not coming back to you. When you charge that card and it says card approved, there's this self-gratification in our head that our card's approved, but we're not really thinking about. You just, if you're not somebody who goes back online and looks at your balancing in your savings account, your checking account, whatever it is that you have your money invested in, it's not really even invested, right? It's just it's cash. I mean, it's available cash to you immediately, and so you're not really investing it in anything. You're just saving it. But when you spend it, when you're using that card that these 15-year-olds will have, they're not paying attention to the fact that now you have to pay for whatever it is you just charged.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm not a fan. I think every kid should get a check, cash the check, have cash, and spend it. And then when it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
And so that could be a problem, I think it's a problem for adults.
It is.
I mean, it's a problem for adults. So
especially as we go more into a cashless system.
Yeah. Yeah. This whole thing, I don't have any quarters. Do you have any quarters? It seemed like in 2020, the pandemic started becoming the least of everybody's problems. There was like everything else and then the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. It could definitely be a downward spiral if we let that get out of control with 15-year-olds with credit cards.
Oh, absolutely.
To build credit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember when I had my first credit card. I think I was 18.
Okay.
I think it was my freshman year of college. I'm almost positive, but I had already had a job, and I think it was like a $500 limit, and I couldn't. It wouldn't go any higher.
Yeah.
And so I just try to pay it off every month. I remember that. I literally remember that when you're talking about it now, because it wasn't like I was making, a good paying wage like I do now.
Yeah.
Even considering that it was back then and I could fill up my gas tank for $15. No lie. 15, 16. Your buddies got in the car. And if you had 4 buddies get in the car, you had a full tank of gas. And they were just handing you like $4 a piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
$3 $4 a piece, you fill up your tank. So that doesn't work that way now. $3-4 doesn't even get you a quarter of a tank in my truck, maybe. What am I talking about? That wouldn't even be a quarter of a tank. So, that credit card thing, that might not be a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, it obviously depends on the kid and like how responsible they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know what we're doing as a society, pushing things forward.
I question a lot right now. Everybody, and this cannot be a Trump Biden thing. This is, everybody wants to go immediately to that. As soon as you say that, you get these people that'll say, well, at least Trump's not president anymore. What does that have to do with us as a society? We're talking about the fact that this is not a good place to be in right now, regardless of who the person is in the White House.
Yeah.
That's what I think. That's a big problem in this country right now. As soon as we talk about policies that we don't agree with, I don't know.
We check out.
Yeah. We all of a sudden it's well, at least Trump's not president anymore. And I'm like, well, so let's say he is president again and we're in this same situation. I'm not going to change my opinion because he's in there now.
Yeah.
I'm going to still have my same concerns.
Right.
It shouldn't be that. It should be us wanting answers from them.
I interviewed an ex-Navy SEAL who works for a private, it's a private executive detailing company. Mm-hmm. So he provides like protection for like high level people, like presidents. He just recently did a tour for the Prince of Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. And one thing he was talking about was woke culture. And I asked him about it because he didn't really specify too much. And I asked him how, because he travels all over the world, what his thoughts were on how other countries look at the United States. And he was like, I don't want to get too far into this because it's, pretty political. Mm-hmm. He's like, but other countries are laughing. They can't take us serious.
And here's the thing. So you're telling me exactly what somebody who's on the front line, so to speak, who has seen this, but yet you'll still have millions of people who have no idea what it takes to be in the shoes that gentleman's in. Yeah. And they'll sit there and say, oh, obviously he's supporting one party and not the other. And he's there purposely. David Hess has him on that show purposely to badmouth and promote the right and not the left. And that's the problem.
Well, one thing I also realized too with the right and the left is that the right they're always willing to talk. For some reason, they don't have a problem with going on a podcast and just talking. No. But I've invited people who are really far on the left and they tiptoe around it. They don't want to do it. And they're like asking questions. It's really strange. It's not that I'm, siding with the right or anything, but it's like the right, they obviously believe in the freedom of speech. So they're all for going on a podcast and talking and promoting and doing whatever. But the left, like they really have to kind of divulge into some of their ideologies. And then that's when they start getting tested and they don't want that.
And it's not it's really the deep left. I know a lot of people just on the left. Yeah. That
I'm talking about like politicians.
Yeah.
And nowadays, you can't just be you can't be just left of center.
But if you're a politician, I could tell you there's a couple that are who? Joe Manchin.
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, he's the reason. He's the reason why nothing's getting passed in Washington when it comes to the bills that are being presented right now. Although they are trying to present something now that he is in agreement with the latest bill, but he has been the one Democrat that has shattered any opportunity for them to move forward with whatever bills that they're trying to get passed through Congress, through the Senate. Yeah. And so because they have control, but but they need all 50.
Right.
And he has been the one man that has not sided with the Republicans, but just looked at it in his own. He said, is this something that my constituent, is this going to work for my constituents, or is this going to be something that's bad for them?
Right.
And regardless of political party.
Yeah.
And he's been very bipartisan in that situation. And so they really have had a hard time with him. So he's been the one.
That's one thing I don't understand. Like, why? Again, we're getting political. I don't want.
Yeah.
I hate politics. I really do. But with the left, with any politician that at least I've had on the podcast or that I've met or that I know of, whenever they're running for some office, doesn't matter what it is, they're extreme. They have to be the extreme left because they have to agree with the party lines.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It is crazy, and it just, I'm not a big politics fan. I personally can't stand Washington D.C. period, because I think all they do on both sides, one side more than the other, in my opinion, but on both sides, they completely drive this country apart.
Yeah, and
they drive us apart in everything from race to religion to culture to
financial,
financial big time from an economic standpoint, and it's unfortunate because we actually give into it. We give into it, and it's where the 1% control.
Yeah,
and it's amazing how 1% can control such a large group of people, and the large group of people literally claim they can see it, but yet we still you have some very smart people in that 1% who know exactly how to sit down with the people that understand the human mind and break people down and literally divide us the way they have.
Yeah.
It's if I'm wrong, show me where I'm wrong, because look what's going on. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy.
And that's where we come in, Tony.
Yeah.
We come in, we talk about these things, we talk about our lives and bring everything back on a personal level to kind of bring everybody back together.
Yeah.
I do it and you do it, and you talk about fitness, health, and nutrition.
Yeah.
Where you mentioned the podcast before, but where did that come about? I mean, I know that you've always kind of wanted to do something, whether it was like a YouTube channel, but where did the podcast come about?
So it was going to be a YouTube channel at first. We were trying to do that. So being up here working for General Motors in Lansing, Lordstown, Ohio closed.
Yeah.
And when I moved up here, which is about 3 hours and 45 minutes away, the YouTube channel seemed like something where I can do YouTube channels for fitness, exercise, nutrition. And then my brother Joe, who is involved in all, he actually does, he works with technology. He works with videography, camera work, website development, things of that nature. He does it for realtors. He does weddings, graduations, everything. Website development for 6 or 7 different people at one point. I don't know if he still does it or not for all those people. But so with that being said, it was too much for me to go racing back home and racing back up here and racing back home with my camera work for him to do all the editing and everything.
Yeah.
So he said, this isn't going to work. Let's try a podcast instead. And I've said this before, so my first thought was to kill him because it was crazy how much work we were going through with it. And then I thought, you know what? Let's try the podcast and see. So he starts telling me about all this research he's been doing, and we start trying to figure out how we're going to go about doing it. And he finds this platform called Anchor. He says, you can actually be in Lansing. I could be here. We'll start off slow. We'll try and figure how we work our way into videography. One day we'll have our own studio. And he's thinking ahead, but he's not talking too much about that. He's talking more about just doing shows. So we start writing down ideas. We write down like 55, 60 ideas of show topics for exercise, nutrition, mental well-being. Somehow I talk him into throwing in some 80s and 70s nostalgia. It didn't tie in real good. We were doing shows where our entire first segment is 80s nostalgia, and it was like 15 minutes long, and it didn't tie into the show. So I was having a ball, but I think the listeners were like, I thought this was leg day. Why are we talking about Jaws? You know what I mean? And so in the second season, we started tying that into the show. So if we were doing a carnivore diet show, we would talk about the Wendy's Where's the Beef commercial tie it into the show. That started working a little bit better, but it was still too much in the beginning with the nostalgia. So now we kind of just throw it in our shows that we're starting now. If it if it fits into a part of the show, that's when we just toss in the nostalgia. We don't do like an entire segment in the beginning. So, we have all the, we try to go from one to the other. We try not to do 10 shows in a row about nutrition. We talk about all the different eating lifestyles, whether it's ketogenic, carnivore, intermittent fasting, moderate eating lifestyles. We do supplementation. We have interviews. We interviewed you.
Yeah.
We talked all about your podcast and what it's all about and how it started.
That was the best episode.
I tell you what,
it took off.
Yeah, it was a good episode. It was a good episode. And
that was a good episode.
Yeah. And for sure. And obviously you'll be back when the stars align and our schedules meet. But, we have a clinical psychologist, Dr. Nicole Rentilla. She comes on when we talk about different aspects of the mind when it comes to arrogance versus confidence, and narcissism and things like that, because it's my firm belief that as a fitness trainer, your mind plays the biggest role in everything you're doing. 80% of everything you do is from your shoulders up. So we like to have the feel-good stories. We like to interview people like Dr. Nicole Rentilla, and people who can talk about the mind, because if you don't have the right mindset, it doesn't matter how strong you are. It doesn't matter how fast you are. It doesn't matter, because eventually that's going to falter if you can't keep your head on straight, because working out is not easy, and staying committed to that habit, making it habitual is not easy. So we try to really focus on that as well. We have Ron, the pharmacist, who's been in pharmacy for 30 years now, and he talks about supplementation a lot. That's his focus when it comes to supplementation and pharmaceuticals, how they play a role together and how they work, separately when it comes to protein, when it comes to, pre-workout drinks, when it comes to creatine, things of that nature. And can you mix this with certain vitamins, certain prescriptions, things like that. So he comes on. He's been on a lot. He's been on like 6 or 7 times now.
Whoa.
Yeah. We have some really cool interviews coming up in the fall that we're looking forward to. We just did one with a high school kid, Mr. Thomas Vallant, who plays high school football, and he has a podcast back home called Hometown Heroes.
Oh, cool.
And he talks about how people have persevered and helped out others through the pandemic. This kid's just turned 18 years old.
Wow.
We thought we were talking to a 35-year-old. I mean, and it's nice because you see the younger kids doing this now, and so it gives Generation Z, who gets such a bad rap sometimes, it shows people that we're going to be okay. We have a lot of young people that are very concerned with making sure that, this world is a better place. When I'm in a nursing home someday, still thinking I'm on the mic doing my podcast, talking to myself in the window at age 95. But so, I mean, things of that nature. And
you think you're going to live till 95?
I want to be 100.
Whoa.
Yeah. Or you know what? I want to outlive Cipriano, our good friend Sep. If I can outlive Sep, I'll be good.
You might if he keeps running the way he is.
I'll tell you, he's a beast.
He just got rhabdo.
Well, he's still recovering from it?
I mean, I would assume.
Yeah, because I see
just
his
get over
videos and I text him and he's like, I'm good, boomer. He calls me boomer. Folks, I'm not a boomer. I'm Generation X, but he insists that I'm my parents' age. So, I mean, but no, so he's, he's the example of the opposite side of the spectrum. Yeah. Some people don't work out enough. Some people work out way too much.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to take those. See, he's so geared. He's so focused on what he's doing. It's very hard to get somebody to dial it down a notch. They feel
he doesn't want to.
No,
he doesn't want to be normal.
No. So he seems like he's doing a lot better, though. He seems like he's recovering slowly through it. He's not going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
We actually did a show on rhabdomyolysis, and we did an interview with the young lady who actually almost died with rhabdo, and so it's a very serious condition you can get when you're overexerting yourself, not just in exercise and in so many other aspects. Yeah. And you're literally, your body, your kidneys literally shut down. I mean, everything starts shutting down on you. Your body can't handle that kind of stress. So that's something that everybody should pay attention to, rhabdomyolysis for sure. Especially if you're an exercise fanatic, a lot of people do like the CrossFit and Zumba and all those, where there's a lot of energy exertion.
The lady that got rhabdo that was on your podcast did Zumba, right?
She was a Zumba instructor. She was doing Zumba.
She was working out like crazy.
She was doing Zumba, then she was doing like 7 or 8 classes a day,
That's
then
so
working
crazy.
full time.
That is so crazy.
She was a mom of 2, and traveling back and forth between Arizona and Youngstown, Ohio, and it one day just snuck up on her slowly, and then it really, she was in bed. She was bedridden for a while.
That was a really good episode.
Yeah,
I listened to that one.
Kim Rigetti's-Vabek. Yeah, she was. Yeah, so and I've known her forever. We're the same age.
So when you are coming up with a new season, do you have like an idea of what that season's going to be about? Like, how do you figure that out?
So we try to stay 3 to 4 weeks ahead, even during the season.
Okay.
So literally, like right now, if we didn't do a show, the next 3 weeks there would be a show. And so what we're doing while that's going on is we're getting ready to do another show that will air in a month.
Okay.
And we're deciding, okay, so what is this going to be the first show where we do video and audio? How's that look? And then, we start going back and forth, and then we've been doing a lot of Zoom conferencing and seeing what we want that to look like in terms of video and audio platform. And, so then we're talking about, the next season, every season is 20 episodes. Is this possibly where we go all video? When does the studio come into play? We've already started setting that up in our head, drawing it to see where. So we're always ahead of the game. We have people in terms of interviews that are in like a waiting cell we probably have enough interviews for the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we try to explain to them, listen, and we do reach out to them every now and then to remind them, you're on the list. It's just,
we'll get to you.
We'll get to you. Yeah.
Yep.
And so, we try to make sure our interview list is nice and long. We try to make sure that we know what we're doing 3 to 4 weeks from now. And then we try to have a picture in our head of what's the next season look like. Every season, we can't have everything always look the same.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of boredom, we don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over. But ironically, the listenership, it's like, if I have a graph, it's going like this, then it goes like this, and it goes, then it goes like, so it's going up, and then every now and then it shoots down, then it shoots up higher, and the analytical data is hard to follow sometimes.
It really is, yeah.
You have to see that huge spike upward, and then you start looking through your shows. What was that?
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah.
And the thing with podcasts is once they're out there, they're always out there. So somebody might see your latest episode, then be like, whoa, what is this? Yeah. And they go back and listen to an old episode, and you're like, I forgot about that one, but that one spiked. It's interesting. It's really weird.
I think if we're going to do a show, we'll also look and we'll say, okay, we're doing, we're going to talk about hamstring development in this show and how to develop your hamstrings. Well, we did leg day in season 2. This is season 4. So we make sure that we tie that into leg day, and then we put the link to that show into the description of that show. Yeah. And we let people know. And then all of a sudden we'll see that if we have 60 people on this one day listen to that show, like maybe 20 or so went back and listened to the leg day show. Right. So we kind of, it's a show we already did, and we get more listenership by bringing it into the new show.
Yeah, that brings me back to always being in the forefront of everybody, because that's one thing I started kind of recently doing was I'll have memories pop up on social media or whatever of an old episode I did. And before I just kind of be like, oh, that's cool. It was a year ago. Yeah. Now what I'm doing is I'm posting it. Yeah. I post it, put the links. It is what it is. If you want to go back and listen, and people do. Yeah. And the listens, because the thing is with podcasts, I've had people say to me before, I don't know how to listen to your podcast. And they just assume that it goes away. Once it's out there, it's always out there. You just got to go find it. Mm-hmm. But people forget about that. Yeah. They don't know how to do that. So
I say it every show. And every Tuesday when I do a Facebook Live, I explain to people it's airing tomorrow at 9 a.m. Every Wednesday at 9 a.m. is a new show. And then forever in our archives, it never goes away. If you go into our archives, you can find that show. It's sitting right there, all 60-some episodes that we've done so far. Yeah. And some people just, they don't know how to find it. It's very odd, because Joe will tell you, I'm not, and I think he even said it to you when we interviewed you on the show, I'm not the most technologically advanced individual. Yeah. on the face of the earth. And I literally found it in seconds when we first started doing the show, and I wanted to go on and listen.
Yeah.
And if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
It just it's a matter of it doesn't make it's about as easy as turning on the radio back in the day and turning the station to whatever radio station you want to listen to.
Well, and I think there's so much going on that people don't like. They may see it, but then they just kind of scroll by it and then forget to go back and listen. So that's one thing I started realizing too with the podcast was like I put up these posts whenever I post an episode, like a picture of the person that was on, and then like on Instagram I'll put a link in the story, and I think it shares over to Facebook too. Mm-hmm. So one thing I started doing, because I used to post just like I'd put the link and then I would title it like YouTube or Apple Podcast or something, but nobody would click on it, and people are dumb. Apparently. So now what I do is I put click to watch on YouTube, or click to watch and subscribe on YouTube, and then people start clicking.
Yeah.
Or click to listen on Apple Podcasts.
Right now, people are going, oh, really? I was listening to you religiously until now.
But no, it's like a trickery for the mind.
It is.
You know, like you got to tell somebody what to do.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing like with YouTube. Like I've been doing deep dives on like YouTubers and like how they get more subscribers and whatnot. And the first thing that they will tell you is that people will not subscribe to you unless you tell them to. So in the beginning, like if you listen to a lot of YouTubers, they'll be like, hey, hit that, or smash that like button, or smash that subscribe button. And then they'll move on with the episode or whatever it is. So yeah, it's a whole process. Like you got to learn how to do everything, like marketing and all that stuff.
Yeah, the marketing is, I mean, you know, when you think about like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, those are things that we're getting more and more into, but there's so much more that goes into it. And there's all these little tricks that you have to try, and it's not like not one thing works all the same.
Yeah.
All the time for everyone. What works for you might not work for me.
Yeah.
Or me and Joe, I should say, for Two Brothers, One Mic. What works for, you know, I mean, right now, obviously, if you're chasing, and that's another thing that we've learned, you don't chase after anybody else's podcast. You don't try to get their numbers. You know, there's a great podcaster out there. His name is Pat Flynn. And we were talking about this before we started the show. And he says in his 12 or 13 years, one of the biggest mistakes podcasters make is that they try to be like another podcast. And if that other podcast is doing better than them, they beat themselves up. Yeah. Why am I not getting the same numbers that guy's getting?
Yeah.
Instead of, and he said this too, and this was really interesting. If you're a podcast and you have 50 to 75 to 100 people that are listening to your podcast religiously, that's not a lot. But think about this instead. Think about if you were sitting in a room on a stage and there were 100 people sitting there every day, every week listening to you. That changes your mindset. Yeah. That's like a full room of people, and you're teaching a class every Wednesday at 9:00 in the morning. I'm just using our example, and that's a lot of people sitting in the room. Yeah. So if you look at it that way, because you have to keep the right mindset. We're just talking about this with exercise. You have to keep the right mindset, because if you don't, that's where people fail. Yeah. They want 10,000 listens per show right now. Yeah.
I guess I've never really had like a goal of what I wanted for listens or anything like that. I came into it with a mindset like I'll just do it, and if people like it, they like it. If they don't, then whatever. Mm-hmm. But then it's like at the point now, and I just recently posted about it. But like it's at the point now, it's like I want to take it to the next step, to the next level, and without like growing the podcast, or without like having I don't know, more supporters or sponsors, whatever it is, like you can't do that. It makes it almost a little bit more impossible. So I just recently posted on Facebook about, you know, how like it's discouraging when, you know, like it doesn't necessarily go the way you want it to go. Yeah. People took it as like I plan on quitting. And that's not what I meant. What I meant was I was just going to slow down on it because it was too much. I was doing it too often. And I just realized that like by me doing this podcast actually does help a lot of people. Like I posted a screenshot of a text message a guy sent me. He was on the podcast a couple times, and he was like, "Hey, just so you know, your shirt that, you know, you gave me for the podcast is my favorite shirt to wear to the gym." And it was just like out of the blue. Like one of the days where I was feeling like, man, I need to slow down. Like I'm doing too many episodes. I'm just getting burnt out, and it's not worth the amount of time and effort. And I just need to take a step back a little bit. He sent me that text, and I'm like, you know what? Like what I'm doing obviously is making a difference. I need to keep doing it. But I just need to be more smart about the way I'm doing it. And then I posted that, and people are like, "Oh, don't stop!" Like, I wasn't saying I'm going to stop.
Well, once you go on social media and you post something like that, they equate what you said to the person who goes on Facebook and says, "I'm over it. I'm done with everyone." You know what I mean?
I'm ending it.
You know who you are, and you're like reading it, going, "Okay, what? I know we don't know who you're talking about," but and then everyone starts. So then you do immediately think to yourself, in some concerning fashion, is this person okay? I mean, like you don't know.
Yeah.
Are they like reaching out for help because they're not really saying it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then you start seeing a bunch of people with, prayers, hope everything's okay.
Yeah.
And some people genuinely mean it. Some people feel like it's just their Facebook duty to post that. But, there's every now and then, if I know the person really well personally, I'll send them a message and say, "Hey, everything going okay? How you doing?"
Yeah.
Because you don't know. But I think automatically when you post that, everyone equates that with that.
Giving up.
Yeah, giving up, and I quit, and I hate life, and all that other stuff, rather than what you really meant by it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the whole thing when it comes to texting. You text somebody one thing, and
it gets blown out of proportion.
Completely take it the wrong way.
Yeah. For me, like it was just one of those things where I was doing it way too much, and to the point where it wasn't like beneficial to even grow the channel. I mean, because I was putting so much content out there that my listeners couldn't keep up, even if they wanted to. Like you probably have not listened to more than half my episodes.
No, if I had to guess, and I really don't know how many, I'm probably in the high 20s to low 30s.
Yeah. See, and that's like
30%.
Yeah, and that's not what I want. I want people who follow my podcast to be like, "Oh wow, that's an interesting podcast. I want to listen to that," and then have time to do so. And then maybe a couple days later, like, okay, I have time to listen to this again, so I can listen to a different episode.
So here's what for Rising Above podcast with David Hess, it's my excuse me, driving home to Youngstown or driving back up to Lansing. One of those two times I listened to one of your podcasts. So like right now I'm on like episode 31 or 32, right? But if you're putting, the exact episodes?
No, I don't. I'm just saying my portion of that interview, those interviews are probably terrible.
I don't think so, but I wasn't critiquing it. But so as you could see, it's only so your podcast is one of my podcasts I listen to on the way home.
Right.
So if I only go home once every 2 weeks and I listen to your podcast, there's no way I'm going to catch up to.
Right.
Exactly. So sometimes I'll listen to one on the way down and one on the way back up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's how I normally listen to your podcast. So for me, I would never catch up, which for me, that's great because I'm always going to have new content. For you, that's not great.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it all depends on, now if you have the listener who listens to you on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, when they go to the gym, and you're the first thing they listen to as they're getting ready to work out, then they're going to keep up with you.
Yeah.
So this is like so you have to find that happy medium between the guy who listens to you on his long commutes and the guy that listens to you in the gym 3 days a week. And that's where I think our numbers, like when I see him shoot way up, this guy must be driving home. There must be these 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 people on that time that they're always driving home every couple of weeks from somewhere far away. That's when they listen to us. And then they go away and so that's where we came up with the once a week thing, because it was like, if we do this too often, maybe people don't listen as often. Or it's hard because if you're not getting feedback from people, you don't know exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like people don't give feedback for podcasts. I mean, I get feedback like from coworkers of like, hey, like keep up the podcast. I listen every now and then or whatever. I get that a lot, but like as far as like on social media, or I guess on social media, I get quite a bit of feedback, but like on the actual platforms, like where people can like, or they can subscribe, or they can leave a comment or a review, people don't do that.
They don't do it. I don't think, I don't know how long it takes to get there. That's what we're all, because we get a ton of comments on our messengers and our Facebook pages, and like you said, people come up to you at work, people that I don't even really talk to that much, not for any reason, I just don't know them that well, and they'll be driving by on the material truck and say, "Hey, I listened to your podcast, good episode," and I'm like, I don't even know that guy. You know what I mean? So, but it makes you feel like, wow, some people know what's going on with that podcast.
Yeah.
So it makes you feel good, but it is hard to figure out the data, and that's where people quit, because they don't want to deal with that. But
I mean, it's a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot of effort and time.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's one thing that, like, the amount of effort that I put into it, I'm like, okay, like, I know that if I continue to put this much effort, you can only succeed from here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it'll eventually get traction, and it'll pick up and take off.
Yeah.
And it's starting to, but you just got to continuously put that same amount of effort and time and everything into it.
You do. You have to put a lot of effort and a lot of time. I know that. My brother definitely knows that. He is actually walked away from one entity he was involved with to put all that effort into the podcast now, because he can see like the numbers, and he can see that there's an avenue, and he can see that there's something there.
Yeah.
And I think he went from, this is a nice little thing to do, to now Joe is very, I guess you could use the word excited, because he's definitely like, I can
motivating.
tell. Yeah, it's motivating. He argues with me more when he starts arguing more with me. Before, he may have just said, okay. But like today, we were going back and forth about like a different avenue. And like, well, we want to try this, that. And I was like, are you kidding me? And we're texting back and forth feverishly. And the whole time, I'm not even getting mad at him, because I'm thinking, man, he's really passionate about this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's telling me, listen, this is one avenue. This is one avenue. We have to watch what we're doing here. And so I'm like, that was a good argument, because I wouldn't want him to just be like, I don't care, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is like anybody who's starting up a podcast. I hear this all the time. Yeah, I want to like do this podcast from our garage. We just want to talk about tires, and I'm like, okay, you know, and I'm like, that could be a show, but like if you just sit on the couch in the garage and talk about tires, you better be passionate about it, and you better have, you better really know where you want that to go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's got to be like, do you want to talk about the history of tires? Do you want to talk about, like, do you want to have like what's your background going to look like? Is that going to be your studio? You know, you're going to have like a white wall tires over here, mags over here. You're going to talk about when did tires first develop? What, how did it all start? I don't know. Like, that's definitely a niche.
It's a strategy game. It really is. Like, you got to figure out, like, what do people like? What kind of tires are people interested in? Like, what's going to catch their eye when they scroll past your channel on YouTube, when they look up a tire? Yeah. Like, oh, what's that? Is that a Ferrari tire? Like, like, that's one thing that I've had to learn. Yeah. You can't just throw a video up on YouTube and call it a day.
No. There's a guy out there right now that has a podcast, and I can't think of the name of the podcast, but like the radar detectors, like police scanners, for emergency calls. Yeah. So he takes the world of electronics and he just concentrates on police scanners and fire and EMT, and he has an entire podcast about it, and the podcast is going through the roof. Whoa. And that's all he talks about are police scanners, and has a major passion for it, a lot of knowledge for it, and talks about it on his podcast, like all the different kinds, I guess.
Does he tell you how to evade them?
I have not watched him yet, but I noticed that he gets a ton of followers to this podcast, and I don't even know how many episodes he has in 25, 26, and he just hit the ground running with, and who would have thought that was going to be like a major deal, right? Yeah. But again, like they say, I could look at that and go, well, how is he doing that with talking about radar detectors? Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm over here trying to tell people how to be, fit and eat right. And so you can't look at it that way. He's doing something that he's catching the eye of the people that want to know about that. And I have to figure out what I need to do to catch the eye of the people that want to know about what I'm talking about. Exactly. So that's really, there can't be comparisons like Pat Flynn was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that being said, where can people find your show? Where can they find you? You probably don't want people reaching out to you unless it's to be on the podcast.
Well, I'm not going to give my number out. But if you go to Facebook, we're on Two Brothers, One Mic. It's the same thing on Instagram. On
you guys have an Instagram now?
We have an Instagram. We do have a Twitter where I need to really get there a little bit further into that. When it comes to TikTok, it's the number 2 BROS _ the number 1 MIC. 2 bros _ 1 mic, and it's Coach Tony Sarge. So we're on TikTok there. 2 Brothers, 1 Mic. If you want to reach out, like I said, on our Facebook page, 2 Brothers, 1 Mic, we will respond immediately to you. We don't have a website yet. That has actually been an ongoing, we know we need type of conversation. And so we've been discussing that, and that will definitely be something in the near future. If you go to any platform that you listen to podcasts on, whether it's Anchor, Spotify, Apple, Google, Facebook, what are some of the other ones? Castbox, Stitcher.
Are you on Pandora, iHeart?
iHeart, yeah. So you go there and you type in 2 Brothers, 1 Mic, and our 2 ugly faces come up. And so it's, and you can listen. And then at this point, I believe we have 63 episodes that are now airing. And then the next one will air this Wednesday, which will actually already be gone.
Yeah.
But it'll still be there. It'll be there.
Yeah.
It'll still be there.
What's that one on?
This Wednesday, we talk about weight maintenance.
Okay.
So just some ideas when it comes, not all the ideas, but just some ideas for people who have hit their goal weight, because that's usually, it's easy to lose the weight, really.
Yeah.
It's easy, Mom. I'm not saying it's easy to lose the weight or gain the weight if you're trying to gain or if you're trying to lose.
Yeah.
But it seems to be something that people kind of have a niche for. But then it's when they get to that weight, they're like, now what? How do I maintain this? So we talk about what we call metabolic set point. Like, everybody has it. Everybody's body has a certain weight and it tries to stay in a certain realm. So we talk about that, and we talk about different types of eating lifestyles that you can do in order to maintain that weight or stay in that metabolic set point.
Okay.
Without stressing yourself out,
right.
Which is what everybody do. Everybody does that.
Yeah.
So that's what the show is about this Wednesday. I think by the time this show airs, we'll already be sitting there.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's there.
Yeah.
So they don't
go back and
anywhere.
listen.
That's the great thing about podcasting as opposed to radio.
Yeah.
It is.
You can go back and listen. You don't have to record it.
Yeah. So exactly.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this, and hopefully we can make it a 4th time.
Absolutely.
Soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we touched on everything today, so we'll do it a 4th time, and we'll just pick up where we left off.
Cool. Well, thanks for doing it, Sarge.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.